Welcome to What in the World podcast. This week, Jess and Jeremy Roberts, Hungry for Life's Director of Technology, will be sitting down and giving away all of the secrets and behind the scenes of their most recent fundraiser. So sit back and enjoy hearing all about how we pulled that off.
Hi, and welcome back to another week of What in the World, the Hungry for Life podcast, where we talk about all things to do with international development and running a nonprofit. So it's been a while since we have filmed one of these, so we're a little rusty. But here today to talk about our latest event, which was our fundraiser 2 weeks ago, is our Director of Technology, Jeremy Roberts.
Hey,
Hi,
Jess.
Jer.
Hey, Jess. How are you?
Good. Thank you
Good.
for walking down the stairs and joining us on this podcast.
I know. It's a whole, 30 feet.
It was a big ask. I realized that, but thank you for...
Oh, anytime.
Jeremy is our Director of Technology. And thank goodness for him, because we would not have been able to do our fundraiser auction event November 19th without Jeremy. So this podcast is a little bit specific to nonprofits, or if you're running a nonprofit, if you're thinking about fundraising and development and what that looks like as far as interjecting tech into that. So we are just going to kind of do a bit of a debrief about how our fundraiser went and hopefully shed some light on some great tech systems to help you, as in your nonprofit, raise more money and get your cause out there. So let's just jump right in.
Sounds good.
This is just going to be a discussion, not so much questions, but we want to discuss why we went virtual for the fundraiser this year. Mm-hmm. So a few of the factors. So Jared, I think I'm going to let you start us off here.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, it's been quite the couple years here in the whole world, really. Mm-hmm. And so obviously COVID played a huge factor in us deciding to go virtual again. Just the unknowns of what was going to be open, if we were going to be able to gather or not. And so, of course, we had to plan these things quite a bit in advance. And so we decided, well, the safest route is to keep it virtual for another year. And then internal reasons as well, even though from the tech side of things, there's a lot to figure out, but it's not nearly the same amount of work as planning an entire event where people come for either a dinner or whatnot. And so that played a bit of a factor as well.
For sure. Yeah. And from the event planner perspective, putting on a 350-person event requires a ton of manpower, a lot of hours of sourcing, getting your caterers, getting your decor and all that kind of stuff. And so shifting gears to a virtual fundraiser was a whole different ballgame that I'm sure anyone who plans events for nonprofits is nodding their head in agreement that COVID just really threw everybody for a loop. And so I think that was probably, going through what we went through last year with the last minute changes of, okay, let's go virtual because of COVID. Let's have some watch parties, and then let's not be allowed to have some watch parties and all that kind of stuff. So I think, like you said, it was probably our safest bet. Mm-hmm. And I think God just had his hand in our decision making because at the time that we made the decision to go virtual, it looked like we would be able to meet.
Yeah, it's true.
And then with all the vax passports and all that, it just complicated everything a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Another reason to go virtual is you can have a more kind of purposeful, streamlined event that way. There's definitely great things about in person for sure. And I'm excited for the day when we go back to that. Mm-hmm. But having just a 45 to 60 minute program, you can be really focused in what you're trying to say to people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of a plus on the virtual side. It can be more focused and direct. And so, yeah.
Also, a huge benefit to going virtual is reach.
Yeah.
Anyone from all over the world can watch your event. And anyone can donate to your event.
I kept saying that to my supporters over and over again, because some live, on the other side of Canada, and I'm like, you guys can tune in. It's it's not too late for them.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to have that opportunity for people to join wherever they are.
Yeah, and that's why we titled our event this year, What in the World, which is also the title of our podcast. But You see that branding combination
nice
there?
and done, Jess. Nice.
Just trying to hammer it in people's heads. No, it's, but yeah, so reaching people, allowing even like we're an international organization. So I'm not sure if they did, but our international partners would have the ability to tune into an event that they are the beneficiaries of, essentially. So that was another cool benefit to going virtual this year. Hopping along, we used a system called Givergy, and they're a fundraising platform. And we've done a podcast with them and the benefits, so you can go back and learn more about exactly the scope of what they do. But we want to talk about how we decided to go with Givergy. And so from my perspective, we vetted a few different types of fundraising platforms. And this one just seemed to be easy. They were very willing. They were very helpful. And they, like the first year we used them, they were super helpful. And that we actually used them in person first.
Right. Yep.
And they sent their tech people. They sent iPads for bidding, 30 of them. And it was just very slick.
Yeah, I was going to say slick system they have.
Yeah. So from your perspective, were you part of that decision making, like to go with Givergy? I can't even remember.
I don't know if I was, but as soon as I heard about it, I was like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Because it's providing an easier way for people to be a part of the auction and fundraiser, even if they're not at the event.
Yeah.
They could still be bidding on items and whatnot. Like if for some reason they can't be there. So this year again, like I think it just made sense. Like they've been a great platform over the years, and now switching to virtual, it just made sense to stick with them.
Yeah, like I was texting somebody I knew who they couldn't make it to the virtual event, but because they were in Maui, so she's texting me pictures. I'm bidding from the beach. She's like sending me screenshots of her bidding from the beach in Maui, and I was
awesome.
like, that's awesome. That's amazing. Like
yeah.
the fact that you don't have to be there. You can still you can just set your max bid and go to your luau and kind of forget about it. So that's another awesome feature.
Yeah. Yeah. And on like the technology side, like starting a virtual event, like last year before we started, we didn't really know like what does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And so Givergy already even last year kind of had a system for how to provide a streaming option for people.
Yeah.
And this year they really stepped it up even more. Like last year I think it worked fairly well, but there was still some quirks to be worked out. And this year they partnered with a production company called ISI Productions.
Yeah.
And this company does these types of events and more. Like that's their full-time thing. And so the partnership between Givergy and ISI worked really well. ISI basically provides all the manpower and stuff behind running the show, and all you need to be worried about as a nonprofit is sending your live stream to them, and then they basically take care of running everything else for you, which is a huge benefit, even for companies or nonprofits that don't have a huge tech team. That can be a huge help. The way we did it was a little different because we added a few more pieces, and instead of just having our host or MC in front of a laptop with a webcam, we went a lot bigger than that with a stage and our own production team as well in the mix. So that made it a little bit trickier, but definitely really effective, I think, in the way we presented the event.
Yeah, and that was super helpful. Like, on the evening, if you were watching, you know that there was a few tech glitches because we ran off of our time schedule, but it was nice to have like the tech support to say, oh, cancel opening the live auction, give us another 10 minutes, like don't close the silent auction yet. And so they would kind of like be behind the scenes and programming that kind of on the fly. The tricky part was communicating that with our MC, who did a great job at filling the gaps of time. He did the best he could, and I think he did a great job, which is Cliff. Way to go, Cliff. But pros and cons of using a system. like this, I would say, like just off the hop, the cost. The cost would be a con. Just so people are aware of how much a system like this costs. It costed $5,600 for the bidding site and the streaming site. So that's Givergy and ISI running the show. However, it seems like a lot, but at the end of the day, I think you're making more because of the reach, because your manpower can be used for marketing instead of your tech stuff. So on the outset, I would say the cost was a problem for me. But then once I saw the benefits, it really didn't make a huge difference.
Yeah, when you have a system that works well like Givergy, like the return on that investment is so worth it.
Yeah.
People being able to bid easily, which then, ends up being more bids and things going for higher prices, hopefully.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So I think it's worth it, and the fact that eventually we're going to go back to in-person events, but in the meantime, this has saved us money, I would say, versus the cost of an actual physical event.
I agree. Oh yeah, running a virtual event is like less than half the cost of as it should be. It should be far less than half the cost.
Yeah.
But because the other thing, this is totally off topic, not off topic.
Nothing's off topic.
But it's just not on the Givergy thing. But another cost, which I think people are scared to pay for, but the ROI on it is like so worth it, is the MC. So the MC, I hope that this is okay that I say this, but like we've had other MCs too, so it's not just for this year's MC, is about $2,000 for an evening to run that. And like, it's kind of like, painful to swallow that, but so worth it. And they keep the program going. In essence, they make you more money if you have a proper MC. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what else would you say would be a pro or a con of using a site like this versus just doing it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, a pro is that Givergy, they give you a lot of the tools and tutorials on how to best put on a virtual event. So they've got guides on how to stream, the best lighting setups, all that sort of stuff, and kind of walk you through that process. So you're not just left to yourself to try to figure out, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And also even helping you build out what your program, what your order of the night's going to be, and how to kind of interject like your message and your kind of key points with the fact that you're still doing a fundraiser and calling people to give. And so, yeah, I think there's a big pro in that for sure. With us, with the way we were kind of running things, there was it was a little bit complicated, kind of going back and forth with our setup and then the ISI setup, because we were running some of the show ourselves. So there was a few little things there that I'd do differently next year, but yeah, overall, like, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. And again, like this podcast is kind of more specific to other nonprofits who have been in the shoes of fundraising during COVID and trying to adapt to ever changing like external factors and internal factors, and like the role of tech in that. So from the tech standpoint, what is all involved in pulling something like this off? Because I personally would never have been able to do it without a director of technology. So I'm thinking, like, not every organization has a director of technology. And like, that's daunting. And how do you do that? Can you do it?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. So first, like I mentioned before, like from Givergy's side, they're trying to make it as easy for you as possible. So you don't have to go all big on a stage and have all like these extra features like we had. You can totally keep it simple and just you stream from a laptop with a good webcam and good lighting and good audio. Those are key for sure. Like if you're in a dark room, bad lighting, your audio's all crackly or can't be heard, well then that's going to be a fail. But so you need to invest some time trying to figure that part out for sure. But in terms of what we want to do this year, we wanted to step it up a notch. We wanted to have more interactivity with our guests. So having that trivia game,
right.
Having the Zoom call, well, that was a bit of an issue, but it shouldn't have been. But
Yeah.
yeah, more interactivity with our guests. And so, yeah, it is important to have either someone on your staff or someone you can hire out that knows how to pull those pieces together. Because yeah, in our setup, we had our MC Cliff on a stage at a church here in town, and we had our own kind of production going on from that side of things with cameras, lighting, audio. That was all pulling things into the live stream feed that we were sending to ISI Productions.
Right.
And then they were taking that, and then they were broadcasting out to the event site, as you saw. And then they were also taking care of running all our different pre-recorded videos as well. Videos that showed life change, showed what we've been doing this year, our key messages, all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, it's important to have someone who's got a mind for how those pieces are all going to fit together, because there's a lot of moving pieces. Even myself, as the weeks leading up to it, I was like, kind of just almost freaking out about like, oh, I hope this part works. I hope we got this part figured out. Because yeah, you don't
Lots of moving pieces.
and you got to obviously have rehearsals and kind of run throughs and that type of thing too. But it's totally doable. But yeah, I think having the key people that know the tech side of things is very important.
And not even just that, but like this is not, Givergy is not sponsoring this, but but the other thing that they offered us was so much experience with other organizations who have done the same thing. What's gone well, what hasn't. Like, don't have a video longer than 3 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever it was. Don't have a program longer than 45 minutes. Like, these are kind of factors that they've tried, tested, and true. And so that was helpful as well. But I don't think people totally understand. At least I don't. So I'm just talking from my own experience here. I would have no clue how to pull something like this off from the tech side. So, and I just think that you can't go back now. Like with tech,
Right.
It's so important to always be up on the latest trends of tech. I mean, you know what, we'll get into marketing in a minute. So yeah, so from the tech standpoint, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think, well, it kind of blends into marketing a bit too, but on the back end of the Givergy site and the event site, making sure those are set up properly with not just technically, but like also like what you want to say, and make sure things are clear and easy for people to understand. Because if people are getting to your bidding site and confused about how to buy tickets or confused about how to bid on an item or whatever, then that's going to make them not want to participate. And same with the event site, making sure it's obvious and clear, like how you can send a chat message or how you can different things like that. And I think this year, Givergy did a great job with partnering with ISI, because that system that they had in place with the main kind of viewing part of the screen and the chat and the extra QR codes and stuff to get back to the bidding site, all of that was a step above last year for sure.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to piece that all together completely by yourself without a system like Givergy, that would be very tricky to figure out how to best engage your audience and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, agreed. Okay, I'm going to swap the points from our notes here for a second. Let's talk about what went into marketing for this event. So again, from the event planner standpoint, I felt like we really peppered people with communication. I felt like we sent out maybe one too many emails, one too many social media posts, one too many phone calls. But I don't know if I would do it differently. And if you are a donor and you are listening right now, I would love feedback on this, because when we were thinking about this, I'm thinking like, what's important to a donor? Like, we're not just after money. Yeah, well, we are. Okay. So it was a fundraiser, but like, what my goal was to connect our donor group with our cause. And how do you do that?
Right.
By communicating.
Yep.
Via social media, via emails, via phone calls. And so a lot went into planning like our social media schedule was pretty packed full of auction related and the same images and the same verbiage and the same all that over and over and over again. And I don't know, by the end, I was just so sick of that image that we used. I really liked it, which is sad because now I don't. But, but just as a reminder for people, and, you know, because even in our own lives, like if I invite you to an event in 3 months from now, you're going to be like, talk to me in a week or like a week out.
Yeah.
And so that's why we kind of kept sending a bunch of reminders and phone calls and social media posts. So if you're listening and you were annoyed and bothered by that, please reach out to me at jgoshlak@hungryforlife.org.
But on the flip side,
Yeah.
like it's like, I think it's like 7 touch points that people need before they actually, you know, click to buy a ticket or get the message or this type of thing. So, and on our side, yes, we were creating these things all the time, sending them out all the time. And so maybe that did feel like a lot, but I think on the other, I mean, I could be wrong, but on the other end, the people consuming the media on social media, I think I don't know, I would hope that they wouldn't feel overwhelmed with it and that it would be just like, oh yeah, I should buy my ticket now to this event. Yeah, I don't know.
Because the end goal is, honestly, and I'm being truthful in this, it's not money. Like,
Yeah.
we need that to operate, yes, but like the end goal is to provide our donor group with an opportunity to give, or provide them with an opportunity to connect with a cause that they can feel passionate about and that they can get excited about. So figuring out how to do that effectively, I'm still learning. Like that's still like a steep learning curve because everyone's so different, and you know how people respond is ever changing. And so it's just there's a lot that goes into development that you don't always really think about. But
it's so true though. Like we say this with our support team building when each staff member is raising support. Like it's not about asking for money. It's about building a team of people that are involved and invested in the cause.
Yeah.
And so same thing with people that donate operationally or that come to our auction fundraiser. It's about connecting them with that cause and helping them feel a part of that. Because really it's yes, sure, there's the financial side, but there's also the just investment in something that matters side. Like, and I think sometimes some people can lose sight of that, but I know for us here, like that's so important.
It's so important. Yeah. And our goal was $200,000, which is, I kind of threw that out there, like kind of chuckling in my head about that.
Yeah.
But we made it.
Yeah, that's just amazing. I can't believe that. Like I was thinking you're crazy, Jess. There's no way we're gonna.
Me too.
But no, it was really cool to see, obviously, to see that number when it was revealed, and to see God's faithfulness.
Absolutely.
And it just shows you time and time again, like we just need to have faith and trust that He's going to provide for our needs, and He does. Yeah.
And to that point, like we had a debrief with a few other leadership team members yesterday and talking about like, okay, well, what can we attribute that to? Like, okay, we met our goal. We're trying to think like, what went well, what didn't, what can we do differently for next year? Like, I don't know if we can pinpoint one thing. And that was kind of mentioned yesterday, other than the fact like God is faithful in this, like you give Him your best efforts and then rest and let Him do the rest.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. So I would love to sit down with like a panel of donors and say like, what motivates you to give? But I think it would be very different. And I think at the end of the day, God motivates people to give. So I think any research and development is just pointless. Just kidding. It's not at all. But I'm still curious about what makes people give. But and to that note, like a bit of a breakdown, like I was very curious, like where did all that money come from? I just looked. So our silent auction, so we raised $206,000, I think was the final number. Of that, the silent auction was only $34,500.
Wow.
Which is better than most years.
Yeah.
Our live was 17, which is also better than most years. But huge shout out to our corporate sponsors. We had 40,000 that I secured, and then after that, like after we got like the 40,000, we got their logos and everything, you know, the official corporate sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
We had people continuing to donate like thousands of dollars before the actual event, which is like really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, if you are one of those people, like, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
huge shout out to you guys for like just obeying your calling and supporting our cause and just believing in what Hungry for Life does. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of all I want to say to that point. But
That's amazing.
would you do any? Oh, sorry, go for it.
I'm gonna say some other cool numbers. I did the breakdown of how many people tuned in and what our reach was.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get numbers for where people were located, I don't think. But there were 184 unique views of the virtual auction or event, which sounded kind of low at first. But then I thought about it. Well, we've got watch parties of 10 to 15 people, people that are watching just by themselves, probably are with a couple, like, you know, them and their spouse or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so that equals at least 585 people, I would say. Yeah. So
I didn't even know that.
that's pretty cool. So, I mean, no, like a typical in-person event
like
is what,
300
or so?
Yeah.
So like we pretty much doubled it.
That's amazing.
Which is really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I didn't even think to pull up those numbers.
I just figured that out half an hour ago.
Yeah, that's encouraging. What about doing anything differently? What are we going to do next year?
Yeah. Well, of course, the whole question of do we go do a hybrid in-person event is up for grabs there.
Yeah.
From a tech side of things, what would we do differently? Well, we had a couple issues, like with the Zoom call. We had some issues there, and part of that was unfortunately we had to move venues just like a couple of days prior to the event. So we had a rehearsal at one venue and got everything sorted out, and then had to move venues because of flooding in the area and whatnot. And so didn't get properly time to test that. So I would definitely properly test everything.
Right.
Is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah.
And probably provide other ways more ways for people to interact.
Yeah.
I know we had the chat and we had the game, but maybe checking in with the Zoom parties a couple times would be pretty cool. And then any other, you know, interactivity we could provide, or I don't know. There's lots of things we could do, I suppose. But
yeah, and like we were talking about sort of like the amount of work versus how much is pulled in, and it's just so easy to want to go virtual again because of that. Because at the moment we have a bit of a staff capacity issue too, so it's like this virtual situation worked out quite nicely, but a lot of people are missing interaction. So I think we'll definitely have to figure out some sort of hybrid situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Wish us luck. That's kind of all I wanted to talk to you about, and I hope it was beneficial if you're a nonprofit listening. Just some highs and lows of fundraising and event planning during COVID and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it was of value to you, and that's all I really have to say. If you want to watch our event, it's on our YouTube channel, or will be.
It's definitely on Vimeo, and I think it will be on YouTube very soon.
Yeah. You can see all of our tech glitches. See if you catch it, because a lot of the watch parties didn't, because they were just too busy having fun. So, and that's a wrap for this one. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a global impact in eradicating needless suffering. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Tune in every other week for another conversation about what is happening at Hungry for Life.